Hey guys, so welcome to chapter 4. In this chapter, we're going to take a look at staying alive systems in action, and we're going to investigate a few of the body's different organ systems. Now, we're going to focus on 4 systems in particular: the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the excretory system, and the digestive system. Now, the last one, the digestive system, isn't really in your textbook, but I'm going to provide it as a bit of an extra resource for you guys, and I've created some notes for it because it's a fairly commonly explored system, and so I want to include it in there as well. Okay, so let's jump into it. Okay, chapter 4, staying alive systems in action. In this video, we're going to particularly look at levels of organization and how the body is organized. Okay, all right, levels of organization. Now, the advantages of multicellular. If you think about a multicellular organism, what are some of the advantages of having multiple cells be able to work together to perform a particular function? What the advantages are is that it allows the organism to specialize in particular to perform various functions they need to serve the whole organism. Now, what does that mean? It means that you can divide up the work. Yeah, if your cells are all working together, they can divide up the labor so that different groups of cells can perform particular function. Yeah, cells that congregate together to form muscle will have a different function from cells that form, for example, bone marrow. Or brain tissue or nerve tissue. And so being multicellular allows an organism to have division of labor. In animals, this allows for different aspects of the organism, like coordinated movements, muscles, bones, and things like that. Food capture, hands, feet, teeth, whatever. And then reproductive systems, defense systems. In plants, you have the same kind of organization, but you have ones for capturing sunlight. You've got cell division, you've got nutrient transport, and these specialized cells are able to support one another through that process. Okay, you can also imagine what the disadvantages would be. Obviously, working together means you lose the independence of an organism or an individual cell, which means they can't be isolated. You take away one aspect of your tissue, that particular set of cells will die without the nutrients provided by other cells. Okay. Now, one thing to note, having many cells does not mean the organism is considered as multicellular. Multicellular means the cells are dependent on one another for survival. And so some organisms will have many cells and form a colony, but they are not multicellular organisms because each individual in that colony can survive. Yeah, a good example of that is Volvox. Yeah, so the earliest expression of multicellularity occurs in generations before, when this particular group of organisms, of cells, sitting up to about 50,000 of them are held together by a particular matrix or glue. And what happens is that's the earliest level of specialization that we've actually observed in an organism. Being able to have some cells being specialized in reproduction and others for photosynthesis was the earliest level of division of labor that we observed in organisms. Okay, but for plants and animals, it differs quite a bit. In animals, as you can sort of see there, the division of labor can be broken down into tissues, organ systems, and then your organisms. For plants, however, you can see that they've got tissues just like we do, but they form slightly different organs from what we do, and their systems are the reproductive, the transport, and the root system. A lot more simplified than we are, and the organism obviously looks different as well. Okay. Now, organization at cellular level. So there are some organisms that only employ cellular specialization. What that means, this is the simplest form, and what that means is they have specialized cells, but they don't have any groups of cells that perform one function or organs. And so a good example of that is sponges. Yeah, sponges have different cells. Yeah, you've got some of your porocytes down there. You've got your collar cells, and you've got your opening, and you've got the atrium, which sort of is like both the mouth and the anus of the sponge. But the porocytes is the tubular outer layer, and then you've got your collar cells, which are your inner chamber, which sits sort of right there. And then you've got these the osculum, which is the opening that allows them to trap food. And then you've also got within them these amoebocytes, which allows these sponges to transport cells from one area to another around the sponge. And so you can see there they have different types of cells and specialization, but it's only at a cellular level. Yeah, they don't have groups of tissues to form one function, which is what the tissue does. Okay. Levels of organization at the tissue level. A good example would be jellyfish and coral. So jellyfish and coral have tissues, and a tissue is a group of cells that perform a common function. And so they have a series of different cells that work together to achieve one particular type of task. Yeah, so a good example are your cnidarians, which is the scientific name for jellyfish, corals, and anemones. And so they have specialized tissue that is there to trap zooxanthellae and therefore allows them to photosynthesize. You've got specialized tissue that forms your your gastrovascular cavity, which is their stomach, which allows them to digest their food, and then others that form the skeleton and things like that as well. Okay. When it comes to mammals, mammals have highly complex levels of organization. They have anything from the cell to the body systems. And in particular, there are four that we're going to look at: the digestive system, the circulatory system. We're going to briefly look at the excretory and the respiratory system. Okay. We're going to look at plants as well, very briefly. We're going to look at tissues and organs in plants, and then also how plants are transported. Okay. So let's take a look at mammalian tissues. Okay. Now, in mammals, there are four main types of tissues. Now, the tissues obviously vary depending on which organ they sort of function within. However, these are the main types of layers, if you will, of the mammals. Okay, you've got your epithelial tissues. Your epithelial tissues are your skin or your covers, right? And so the epithelial tissues covers the flat surfaces around the skin, the body, and the different organ and their linings. Okay, so your gut lining, your lungs, your bladder, your skin are all epithelial tissues. Yeah, because they surround, or they are the outside layer. You have your muscles tissue, which is tissues for contraction and movement, heart muscles, your movement that, in terms of your arms and legs, and then your gut muscles as well as your diaphragm and so forth. You've also got connective tissue, which binds and support the bodies together. Yeah, tissues like bone, cartilage, connective tissues, or skin, and adipose tissue between your organs are all connective tissues because they sit in between your organs and allows them to connect together. And then finally, you've also got your nervous tissues, which is made up of your neurons, which forms the nerves that run along your arms, your legs, and throughout your body, forming both your central nervous system, the CNS, CNS standing for central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, and then your peripheral nervous system, which is all your connecting nerves towards the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. Now, any one of your organs can contain one or more of these different types of tissues. Yeah. So, for example, your stomach may contain all four because they have all of these categories working together to perform the function that it requires. Okay. You can think about, consider how many your eyes would have in order to function. Okay. So here's a few diagrams to show each one. You can see the epithelial tissue of the liver sort of sits right there. The fat or adipose tissue in the sample there, you can sort of see there. You can see the fat deposits sort of sitting in these kind of little vats or vacuoles sort of sitting in your cells. And then you've also got your cardiac muscle tissue. Cardiac meaning for the heart, and then the muscles meaning your heart muscles. Okay, sitting right there as well. Okay, here is just a graph showing all of the different types that you've got, which I'm not going to go into too much detail for, but you can sort of see it's divided into epithelial, nervous, muscle for movement, connective tissue also for movement, and so forth. Okay. Now, mammalian organs. So once you have a group of tissues working together, the tissue then forms that organ. Now, the organ performs a particular type of function. For example, the stomach is involved in the breakdown of protein in your body, and so the stomach is an organ that contains a series of different tissues like epithelial tissues, muscle tissues that allows it to churn the food, and connective tissue which connects it to the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, each organ contains different types. And so each making an essential contribution to the overall function of the organ. So, for example, your heart performs the function of pumping blood, and you can sort of see there that your heart muscles have to be really thick in order to do that. And you can see the epithelial tissue sitting on the outside there, and then also your muscles tissue on the inside there that allows you to pump your heart. And obviously the nervous tissue as well will be there, and that sends a signal for your heart to actually pump. Okay, your stomach for digestion, and once again, all of those examples there. Okay. Now, once you get more complex, you can imagine all of the organ systems that your body has, right? So a system or an organ system is a group of different organs working together to perform a major function, okay? And so, for example, you have a system that works together containing all of these different organs that allows you to actually get the energy you need from your food, or more specifically, actually, than your nutrients that you need to get from your food, okay? And that's the digestive system, right? For transport purposes, moving things around the body, you've got your circulatory or your cardiovascular, they're both synonymous, system. And then for gas exchange, taking out carbon dioxide and taking in oxygen, you've got your respiratory system, yeah? So that little table there is for you to do in your own time to identify the different components that form each of the 4 systems that we look at. Sometimes some of you guys may be really familiar with some of those systems, some of you guys may not be, but it's good to have a look at which one forms your system and what do they each do, because we're going to go over all of them, okay? So each system plays a major function, and they sustain one aspect of life for the organism. However, they're all interconnected, yeah? The organ systems work together, and so it allows the overall organism to function the way that it does. For example, your excretory system cannot remove nitrogen waste without the circulatory system transporting it to the kidneys, yeah? So your excretory system will remove things from your blood and filter your blood to clean it. However, the circulatory system contains your blood and the blood vessels, and so they work in conjunction with one another in order to actually remove nitrogenous wastes from the blood, okay? Your circulatory system, or basically any other system, can't transport nutrients if the digestive system doesn't obtain it from the food. And so you can see there, once again, 2 systems working together in conjunction with one another. And also your nervous system will coordinate all of those things, yeah? And so those things are really important for the overall survival of the organism, okay? All right, we're going to stop it there. Next video, we're going to look at the circulatory system. But for now, we'll finish it up there, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, okay? See ya.